Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I have another fabulous guest with me today. I have Mariana, which I'm going to try the last name here, Van Katwijk. How did I do?
Yes.
How
Yeah,
did I
well
do?
done. Yeah.
Yay, perfect.
You did well.
Mariana is here with me. She is also a fellow Vita coach, and she's also a sex and relationship psychologist, sexologist, and hypnotherapist. How did I do there?
Yes.
Yay. Thought I was going to botch all of that. So glad. I haven't podcasted for, I don't know, a month. We were in Costa Rica and then Guatemala and Mexico. We've been all
Oh,
over the map. So
amazing.
it's been, yeah. So we got to go and do the Layla's Eros
Oh, wow.
retreat together, which was
Oh,
super fun.
nice.
Super
Yes.
fun. Nice to play in these realms with our loves, which is great. But welcome to you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad to
Thank
connect
you for
again.
having me.
You're so
Yes.
welcome. Let's let you though do a little intro about who you are. We're going to be diving in just for people who are listening, like, what's this episode about? We're going to be diving into a whole pile of different things around sexual anxiety, what can come up, old, like long-term relationship, new relationship, what women on the whole generally struggle with, and different solutions and ways that they can work through that, of course. But let's give Mariana a nice full intro. Please tell us more about you, who you are, who you serve, all that jazz. And of course, we'll go
Yes.
into how you got here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on your podcast. So I'm celebrating that. So my
Yay.
name is Mariana, and as you said, I'm a sex and love psychologist, sexologist, and hypnotherapist. I'm working with women who are in long-term relationship and their struggle with with having sex with their partner. They're wanting to want it, but somehow they go into the fight flight, their body's freezing up, or they're pushing their partner away, and they are really struggling with this because they really know that I want to have this in my relationship, but it's just not working.
Mm.
And next to that, I'm also working with men, but that's more low key in a way because my main focus is just helping women. And I've been doing that for almost 10 years now, I think.
Brilliant.
And I'm based in the Netherlands, but I work with people all over. So I'm working internationally online most of the time. Yes.
Brilliant. Do you mind sharing your story? What brought you into this? Because most of the time, of course, this is
Yes.
our own medicine
Yes,
first.
definitely, definitely. So, well, I already know from young age that I wanted to work with women, helping women. The word empowerment, I didn't know, of course, then when I was like 17, 18, I didn't know what that was, but I knew I wanted to help women. And there was an option of like, you can become a nurse or
Mm.
I could become an occupational therapist. So I decided to do that. And from there, I ended up doing a lot of different jobs. And eventually, I wanted to do study psychology. But I was already at the age of 30. So most people that do the university, when they're in their 20s, but I was a late bloomer, I guess.
Mhm.
So at my age of 30, I went to the university. I did my 4 years of psychology, specifically social psychology. I wanted to do neuropsychology because that's really something that's very interesting to me. But then you can only work in hospitals. And I knew, like, I
Mhm.
don't want to work in a hospital or this kind of setting anymore. I want to really work with people. And by then I knew the word empowerment and
Mm.
empower them to really become the best version of ourselves. And specifically also for women, because I really still feel like, even though we had in the 70s how do you call that? Emancipation? How do you call that?
That sounded right. That
Yeah,
sounded right.
okay,
But that's a word
yeah.
I'll butch up
Yeah.
to. It'll be like,
Yeah,
did it wrong.
yeah,
That
but I
emancipation.
still
Yep.
feel there is a lot that we need to gain still, or like put in balance, or so that's why I really wanted to work with women. And during my social psychology, because then I went from neuroscience to social psychology because it's more broad and there's also all the dynamics. And relationships are also part of the social psychology study. And then after I finished, I did my internship with positive psychology. So all of this together, and there was a big part of coaching that I did in my internship, and they even gave me like the training, which was really nice from the people that I did my internship with. So all this together already gave me like the foundation of the work that I'm doing now, the positive psychology, the solution-based coaching, my psychology study gave me this really solid grounding. And then I was 35, 4. So a couple of years, yeah, 30. No. I was 34 when I finished, and then I went on a sabbatical to try and go and build up my own practice. And then my father passed away, so I needed another year to just, heal with all the woundings and stuff that came up from that. And I got pregnant really fast without, like, I didn't plan it basically. And during my birth, I got, when you have the high blood pressure, how do you call it again?
Preeclampsia.
Preeclampsia. Thank you. Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, those English words. I got that. So they speed up the birth, and then they gave me a episiotomy. And that was a cut of 7 centimeters. But when they gave me the episiotomy, it was
Oof.
really like they scarred me down
Mm-hmm.
there, but also
Mm-hmm.
as if they opened up Pandora's box of all the female traumas, like from, even if you don't believe in it, but like from past lives or like ancestors and all the things. Like, it was really crazy. And
And
that had a
yeah,
huge
birth can
effect.
do that. Wow. And then a crazy deep episiotomy. That one's huge. Seven
Yes.
centimeters. That is, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it goes through the vaginal lips, but also to
Yep.
the vagina, like inside, through the tissue, through
Yeah.
the Bartholin's glands, where you get the
Mm-hmm.
lubrication from, but also like the muscles of the pelvic floor. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
huge damage
I'm
that they're doing.
squirming in my seat
I
right
know.
now. I'm like, oh my gosh. The
I
fact that
know.
they make this part of a medical procedure is
Yeah,
crazy.
and also crazy that there's many times they do it when it's not actually necessary.
Yeah.
Like, it becomes a standard procedure for so many
Yeah.
birthings, and also that they did give me anesthesia, but at the same time I could still feel the
Mm-hmm.
stitching,
Mm-hmm.
and I could also hear it. Like, it was like there's a microphone in the room, and I could just hear how they were stitching me up. So all
Mm-hmm.
these things, it's creating trauma in the body.
Absolutely.
And then in the relationship that I was in at that moment, well, first, you're in the beginning, your body needs to heal, and you're in this pink bubble with this new born baby because it's like amazing and all these things. But then I started to realize that my body was completely shutting off when my partner tried to touch me. Like, I sexually, it didn't work anymore. And I'm a very
Mm.
sexual person. So it was really like hard for me also, but also, of course, for him. So it was creating so many struggles, like frustration, me feeling guilty, feeling ashamed, frustrated, angry, sad. Like, it was a whole roller coaster of emotions from both our sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was like, this needs to be fixed. I'm a psychologist. I'm a positive, solution-based coach also. Like, I should be able to fix this. Like, this is what real empowerment is about, right? I want this
Mm.
part also to be flourishing in my life. So then I went on a journey. I found Layla. She didn't do the training yet then, but I was like stalking her, sending her email. Can you please create a teacher training? I need this. This is the missing link. Like, and eventually she did. She did create the
Yes.
teacher training, and I was one of the first to sign up for it and go for it. And I was like, yes, this is the masters that I wanted to do. And
Mm.
yeah, since then I've
And
just been helping so many women and myself
so
as well,
amazing.
first of all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so amazing. But you said the masters I want to do. Yeah, it's kind of like a master's
Oh,
program.
it
It
felt
is.
like
It's
it
like
was, yeah.
2,000 hours, probably I'm 3,000 hours in at this point because
Oh
I'm
my God.
constantly deepening
Yes.
and studying, right? Like even a
Yes.
week in Costa Rica with her, like keep going
Yes.
more, which is
Exactly.
she's brilliant.
Yes.
Wow. And
and
So
yeah, so I fixed my own, like,
yeah, let's go
sexually
into
we
that. I want
yeah
to go into
sexually
that.
we managed to fix it all, like, first of all, by just communicating it's not working for me, and I can do it, but then it's hurting me. And he was like, I don't want to do it when it's hurting you, so let's then not do it at all. So then that was creating frustration, so it was going
It's
from,
being sex.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly, yeah, intercourse. And then from the other, like, so it was like going back and forth through a lot of struggle to figure out, like, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we, you
Going to be
know
intimate together. Yeah.
yeah, are we going to be
Yeah.
intimate?
And looking back, I'm really curious, like, what do you see now was wrong? I'm hearing that there was trauma, ancestral trauma, birth trauma,
Yes,
which birth trauma I find activates a lot of past trauma, whether we have sexual trauma or just from
yes,
living in a society that has a really deep set of
yes,
sexual trauma that lives within our society. But I know it
yeah,
activated a lot of my sexual trauma over the years, just giving birth,
definitely.
struggling with breasts, struggling with being penetrated too soon by early boyfriends, struggling with sexual assault.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So much came out. Shame,
Pleasing,
body
pleasing the
shame,
other. Yes. Yeah.
a
Body
lot came
shame,
out.
pleasing the other, not feeling like I could be free, in movements or sounds, or like the way I was expressing myself, because then you're a slut, or you're like,
Yeah, and that's another
dirty,
one.
or like, all these kind of things.
Once you're a
Yeah.
mother, there's this conditioning or so said, uh,
Yeah.
you know, idea that you can't be a sexual being anymore. There's this
Exactly.
mind fuck that's going on in there
Yeah.
too.
And also for yourself, because you're so with your mind focused on, like, I have I need to protect this little new being. So
Mm-hmm.
you're also like not, I couldn't surrender in that stage also,
Mm-hmm.
because I was just with my mind with my baby. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you want to be sexual right now, but I'm in another state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being mother here, and I can't switch it off. Or maybe I needed more time or more whatever it was to be able to switch off, and I couldn't do
There's
it.
there's two other things there too. There's the body image that comes up because we hold so much shame in our body image for women growing up. And then there's the part of, and my, breasts are leaking if you're nursing also. And there's again shame in there if you haven't had that conversation around,
Yes,
if your partner's like, oh my gosh, like your milk's coming out. And it's like, there's that, right? There's that too.
yes,
And then there's the brakes and the accelerator too. If you're stressed, if you're
yes,
sleep deprived, if you're tired, if you're
exactly,
exhausted, you're not going to have a high sexual drive. Your brake could be on hard, your gas could be on low. This is, a
exactly. Yeah,
concept in Come As You Are, which is a fabulous book to understand how
yeah,
stress really does impact us. And then there's also seasons of sexuality too, right?
definitely. Yeah, but I think
There's,
the exhaustion was definitely a
mm,
very big one that was impacting.
yeah,
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 definitely.
which is really tricky because as a new mom too, you're tired. You just need to be loved and held and seen
Yes.
and receive
And be
some pleasure.
supported. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think this was also what was missing in the relationship. I didn't feel supported enough. And
mm,
then when you feel that and you want to give yourself, or like actually have experience of intimacy, sex, penetration, you also need to have that feeling of being supported. And I think
mm-hmm,
that's what was also missing, why I couldn't really, yeah, open myself completely.
mm, mm.
So
Can we break that down?
there's a lot of different little elements there that were all influencing it. And I think this is also what I see in my clients, that they're like, I don't know why it's coming. I want to understand why. And it's like, yeah, but there are so many different elements that are
Mm-hmm,
influencing in
mm-hmm.
so many different layers, and put them all together, and it's like that's,
Not working. And don't let
yeah,
that scare you if you're listening. Don't let that scare
yes,
you because once you start to unravel them, they come the way they should. They come in the order they need to come. Your body is
exactly,
brilliant. I'd like to
yeah,
break down the one that you just shared, which is when you don't feel supported, your
hmm,
body will not surrender.
yes.
Do you want
What
to
do you
speak
want
a
to
little
know
bit
about
more
it?
to that? Yeah, let's break it down a little bit more for people who are listening so they understand that concept.
Yeah, where do I start? Well, I didn't, I felt like I was doing everything on my own.
Mm,
And I don't want to speak bad about my ex, but I really felt that's what I felt. I was doing everything. And I think because of that, the what happened in my mind is that sex, or at least penetration, became another thing that I have to do for him.
Mm,
And then it's like, I'm exhausted. I've already done so many things, and now you expect me to also need to do this.
mhm,
So it would always become at the bottom of my
mhm,
list.
mhm, and there's 2 things to that too, that I can see being, 1, I'm doing everything. I know women are very, very good at doing everything. I did it to
Yeah,
prove that I was good enough as a new mom.
absolutely.
That one
Yes.
happened a lot. "Hey, can I
Yes.
help you with this? Can I do this?" "No, I'm good. I
And
got it."
not even only as a mom, also as a partner.
Mhm, mhm,
I'm good enough to be your
mhm.
partner.
And even his mom would offer to help me. I'm like, "No, no, no, I got it." Because if I felt like this is my own past trauma at this point, I see this at the time now, or I see it's right now. But saying I could needed help meant I wasn't a good mother. There was
Yeah.
something in there, right? And then the other thing you said, um, another thing I had to do, another thing I had to give to him. Again, that's taking back our power and our pleasure, and actually, like, we don't have to give anything away. The only time we should be having sex and intimacy and playing like that is because
When
we
you
want to.
exactly.
We desire to play and they desire to play. But there
Yes.
again, there's the old thought patterns, the old conditioning that tells us that
Yes.
we need to serve our husbands, and that's not
Yeah,
true.
but
Or
also to
partners.
keep our relationship healthy, because sex is supposed to
Yes.
be a big part of it. And if I'm not having that, then something is lacking, and I will either lose him, or the relationship will break up, or he will look for it somewhere
Yeah.
else. So I want to give it to him. And that's always the
Yeah.
first question what I'm asking my clients. Who are you in this session for?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you want to give it to him, or because you want to give it to you? And
Yes.
then they're always thinking like, yeah, actually, I came here to give it to him, but now that you're asking me the question, I want to actually go and give it to myself. But it
Hmm.
takes that shift of like, oh, actually, yeah, I came in here because I want to give it to him, not because I could go without it also. Like, I don't really need it, but I want to give
Mm.
it to him. But yeah, if you dig deeper, in the end, actually, they do want it.
Yeah, because I find, intimacy of any form is such a deep, loving, connected, grounding experience for me. It fills my cup. And I'm speaking from
Yes.
today's experience, not when I had new babies experience. Also different partner experience between
Yes,
the
yeah,
two, right? But it fills
yes,
my cup. It's actually what allows me to continue to go hard and to get through, hard moments and different weeks that are struggles or highs and lows, all of it above. But it is a grounding, connecting, filling me up. I just
yeah,
love the connection. The connection alone with my partner fills me up to, it could be a conversation and connection. It just fills me up to the point where, like, I can go conquer the world now. I'm good. Like, it
yes,
really does. So when you have a new
yes,
baby or babies, you need that more than ever to get through those
yes,
days. It's like you're going into
definitely.
a battle with raising those kids. It's not easy raising babies and
Yeah,
toddlers and children. It's really quite the grind, speaking from a mom of three here.
yeah. Oh, yeah, oh, it's three. Oh, you have three
Three,
kids. Yeah, and I have
three.
one, but
Oh,
sometimes like I have five. No.
it feels like 10. It literally feels like 10 now.
Yeah.
And they are now 24, 21, and almost 19.
Oh, yeah, mine
But
is
it
12. Yeah.
still feels like Holy Hannah, and they're all out of the house now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, really challenging to navigate this. So what do you do to, let's like break it down. How do we help people in whatever stage of the relationship? Because not only does this happens generally with a lot of young babies
Yeah.
and children for a lot of women, but I see that it continues even when they're in their teens. The kids are in their teens and their 20s. They've grown up. Find that the women never come back together, which can be really hard to come back to a partner after 5, 10, 15, 20 years when it hasn't really come back because kids do get in the way. I love my
Yes.
kids, don't get me wrong, but they really do interfere with relationship if we don't know
Yeah.
how to hold both.
Yes. Yeah. So what was your question one more time?
What was my question? How do we break it down no matter what the stage, wherever we are at? What do you do to help women start to heal, start to thaw the numbness that has been created, the resentment that's been
Yes.
created, heal the trauma, the pain, the birth.
Yeah.
I do love that you said it was like Pandora's box. Birthing, I find, can really open up all of our sexual
Yes. So many.
conditioning and trauma. So where do
Yeah.
you like to start with people?
Oh, yeah, that's a really complicated question because sometimes I look back on the session and I'm like, where did we start? What did we do first of all? Like, there's no really one way in how to do it, but I think first of all is recognizing that there is trauma, even though like some women come and like, oh, but I never had sexual assault or I've never been raped, so I don't have any sexual trauma. I think we all have sexual trauma. And just
Yeah.
realizing this, that we grew up in patriarchal society, that's already like a trauma in itself
Yeah. A
that we
bad pap
carry.
smear, I find, when somebody inserts it in too hard, too rough, too
Yeah.
fast, that is
uh,
creating
Even
sexual
walking
trauma.
on the street and receiving, like sexual comments from peers
Mhm.
or people, like it can already be, and all those things, all these together is creating that trauma. So first of all, recognizing that it's there or
Mhm.
acknowledging that it's there, even though you might feel like I don't have it. Regulating the nervous system, really coming down to breathing, um, connecting to your own body. Like I love to give them like warming your hands and really gently stroking your own skin, like, but in such a slow motion and soft way. And it's already that those little things can really help to, calm down in the body, to reconnect to the body. And of course, I'm also a hypnotherapist. So if there's like really strong traumas, then hypnotherapy is like really amazing to take like the the event. You can never erase that. Like, if a sexual trauma has been taken place, like that memory might always be there. But
Mhm.
the emotions that got attached to that moment, this you can how do you say that? Like take apart.
Integrate. Yeah. Integrate,
Yeah, yeah.
dissect. I find like it
Dissect,
still
like
stays there, but it is way
it does.
softer. It's what
Yes,
not
it doesn't.
not triggering.
Exactly. I just now had a woman who had something like this, and whenever her partner was touching her, she would have immediately the feeling of that she needed to vomit.
Mm.
Like very intense. And just after one hypnosis session, that feeling is no longer there. She's like, okay, the sex part isn't there yet, but at least now she's going to bed and they can hug each other at night,
Mm.
which is
That's
huge.
beautiful. Yeah, that's
And we
huge.
didn't need to go into the trauma of what happened, but just to yeah, I don't know how to say it, but to take apart, like as if the energetic cords of the emotion to that event, like we cut them through, something like that. I don't know
Mm.
how to explain it in English. But this is part one, like to really acknowledge the trauma that might be there, to regulate the nervous system, to really slow down, connect to your own body, be mirror work to start, focusing on parts of the body that you do like about yourself and then extend it to the rest of your body. Um, and um, the other part is also to really start to see yourself as an erotic being.
Mm.
And I
Beautiful.
think this is something that we forget a lot, that, we are in our essence erotic, sensual, playful, and to start to come back to that,
Yeah.
to first of all discover that within yourself, by yourself, for yourself, and then also in connection with your partner. And when you are able to do that, it's also easier to make, for example, I'll always in every session I have women make a list of what do you get out of sex? What does it
Mm.
bring you? Write it down. All the things. Sometimes it's like connection, intimacy, like feeling really intimately connected with my partner. It's bringing us together. It's some kind of release. It's
Exquisite
giving.
pleasure.
Yeah, yes. There's some in the beginning there. I find it even hard
There.
to say
Yeah.
that. If they're not there yet, the pleasure part is even hard. But yeah, connecting with my partner, it might be some release of tension, and that's it. So a few things. But I like, if you experience all of this, what else do you get? Yeah, I'm more happy. I'm more this. I'm more energized. Oh, I'm floating throughout the day then. Or at last, a few days, like all those little things. Eventually, they also do come to the pleasure part.
Yes, the
But
pleasure
it takes
part.
some time.
It
Yes,
does. There's so much conditioning, there's so much shame, there's so much trauma, there's so much pieces layered on top. Like even for a woman who's never had outright sexual trauma, if we're going to go with, somebody like that, you're going
exactly.
with bad pap smears, being penetrated too early, maybe doing something in a teenage or 20s in a sexual relationship that you weren't totally comfortable with,
Yeah, not
maybe being
aroused enough.
catcalled, not aroused enough. That's a big one too, right? Being penetrated with not totally being fully turned on. I've even had a bad experience with a bad tampon once, right? Like that
Yep.
can happen too, where you're like, shit, my period stopped. And that tampon coming out hurt like hell, right?
Yes.
Like there's a contraction that happens in our body when anything, and there's also other traumas that happen to us. And as you know, from through de-armoring and so forth, that it could be a different type of trauma, but we hold our
Absolutely.
trauma in our most sexual areas, right? So it could be
Yes.
emotional abuse or somebody yelling at you or treating you improperly. And every single contraction
Yeah.
we make, we're holding it and storing it in our more sexual areas as
Yes.
female
Yes.
identifying
The
humans. So,
pelvic floor holds so much
oh,
tension from all the different traumas. Yeah, even losses
so
or like,
much.
yeah, definitely.
The pelvic floor also gets damaged in its way by women sucking in their bellies,
Yeah.
right? And that's for so long, at least for our generations growing up, like it had to be a flat belly. That was a thing. Sucking
Yes.
in bellies, wearing constriction pantyhoses, all of these things actually start to create a dysfunction in our
Yeah.
pelvic floor and how we're breathing, which again can create so much trauma on
And then
its
we didn't
own.
even talk about menopause yet.
And then we get into menopause. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, that part's
because that
fun.
also has a huge impact on the
Yeah,
muscles, the
yeah.
sensations, everything there.
All
Yeah.
of it. And skipping to menopause, people are like, yeah, that's in my 50s. No, perimenopause is like 10 to 15 years before the
Yes.
menopause. So 35 and up, ladies, like these are our
Yep.
hormones changing. And
Yeah.
we're a very complex and yet brilliant being. And our body does
Absolutely.
want us to strive and move towards wholeness and happiness and, regulation, groundedness. But again, today's society, again, the busyness, the go, go, go. My partner and I
Yeah.
were talking the other day too. I was like, oh my gosh, like I had a mind opening moment of how much I'm doing right now. He's like, think about it. What you're doing today, just today alone, because you have a cell phone and a computer, would have taken a week or two to do 15, 20 years ago.
Yes. It's
Do you know
crazy.
how fast and how much you're working and how much you're getting done? Your body and your brain can't catch up. And I don't know
Yes.
why I hadn't thought about it that way before, but now I'm like, right? Like you can't go to the bank, the lawyer's office, have a meeting with your coach a few clients, and do 100 and other things that we do in one day. You couldn't have done that in a week before without the cell phones and computers.
Yes. Yeah.
So that itself also is really dysregulating our systems. Our bodies are like, too much,
Yes. And
all
why
too
it's also so
much.
important to take that time for
Yeah.
yourself to regulate your nervous system, to calm down, because that way you are able to move to that openness of, I'm actually allowing myself to surrender. I'm allowing myself to experience pleasure when I'm with my partner. But you have to
And on
also,
our own.
exactly, and on our own. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
It's a lot to unwind. What are some of your and I know it can feel overwhelming for somebody who's new that's listening. What are some of your favorite tips and tools? Let's share a few that people can start doing even now, even today. One of my absolute favorites is lock your bedroom door or lock your bedroom bathroom and go have a bath and put on some really slow, sensual, relaxing music. Like that in itself can be
Yes.
so grounding on so many levels. You've got the hearing, you've got the water, you've got the heat, you've got the privacy alone. That can be one of the most grounding tools that has saved me through countless of days.
Yes, but also make a connection to your vulva, to your vagina, to your womb. So
Hmm.
really take a mirror. If you've never looked at your own,
Yes.
vulva, take a mirror, look at her, name a few things that you like about her, which can be really, really hard because it's like, oh my God, it's gross. I've never looked at it. Ooh, is it- you
That
know?
was so hard for me back in the day. It was like
Yeah,
2018. I was like, what?
But just look and see if you can find something that you, and even if it's not about the image, about the sensations there, or about
Yeah.
the delicacy that she's showing, or the fact that life can get birthed through that little opening there. That's just
Yeah.
amazing. So to find ways to acknowledge this part of you, but also to yeah, say a few things that you like about this part. And I think
Even
what's really,
apologizing sometimes, right? Apologizing for
yes,
not looking at her before. That can be a
yeah,
start. Apologizing
yes,
for not listening to when she's ready to be penetrated. That can be really powerful as well.
yes. And even
Starting to have a
touching the scars
conversation.
and
Mm. Hmm.
connect to the scar, for example, that I have done there was very powerful to do that also, to
Can you
connect to the
find
scar.
gratitude for them? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and give healing or love or whatever it is in your own way, in your own, however, ritual, whatever you want to do. And I think also had to this is a way to connect to your sexual center, to your vulva, to your vagina, to your womb space. But also to take it a step further, and even like, for example, when you go to bed, to just, not even sexual, but just to stroke your vulva and your mons venus, to make that connection. This is a part of your body. We're looking at
Say
all the different
hello.
parts of our body, but this one we skip.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
even when you wake up, to just give her a few gentle, loving strokes to make that connection. And I think what's really beautiful also is to play with your hips a little bit during the day. Like, okay, when I'm
Mm.
walking down the street, it doesn't need that you need to make these crazy hip swings, but just to become aware of your hips. Can you move that sacrum a little bit more, which is also very good for your whole, spine and sacrum in your
Yeah.
tailbone, your whole pelvic floor, if you make that little movement there. But it also makes you aware of the sensations in your sexual center. What do I feel there actually? Like
Hmm.
I'm talking to you now, but at the same time, my awareness can be there, and I can feel that
Oh, yeah.
warmth and that softness and
My
like that
whole pussy and pelvic floor is lifting up with
yumminess.
every single talk here. And that's powerful. You can actually do
Yeah,
hip circles even while you sit on a subway. Very tiny.
exactly. And
Very
those
tiny.
subtle emotions, not subtle emotions, subtle sensations, I want to say, those subtle sensations are really powerful,
Hmm.
because that's
Hmm.
it's awakening that like watery, liquidy, warm yumminess that gives way to that pleasure. And that's what
And your power center, literally all of your power
yes,
right there,
definitely.
right there.
Yes, definitely.
One of the things
Yeah.
I love to do also is put on one whole song and literally do hip circles to a song. Like something unlocked in me in hip circles. Like I had so much back pain and so much lower back pain ever since first baby, which again, my sexual trauma was coming up, but I didn't quite know it at the time. Um, so I had, yeah, back pain for like 15, 18 years that just wouldn't go away. And in one
Yes.
weekend where we were dancing with women, doing hip circles and releasing some rage and grief and so forth, just that alone, my
Yes.
back pain was gone on Monday. Like
Yeah.
that's all it took. And little bits came back, but for the most part, it has never been back the same ever
Yeah.
since. It was
Yeah.
the hip circles and the releasing of some emotions. And that was powerful. And then it
Yeah.
becomes activating. You continue the hip circles and then you start activating your pleasure and your power
And
and
then
your
it can just grow
sensations.
and grow and
Oh,
grow.
and then
And
it
when you
grows. And
think you
then
reach the limit, you can still grow and grow and grow.
exactly. And then you end
Yeah.
up becoming, a sex love relationship coach and coaching
Yeah.
women and couples around sex and love and intimacy and tantra and all the juiciness and have the most epic
Exactly.
life you could ever imagine. Uh,
Exactly. But I think a very big step also in all of this is to really consciously give yourself the permission to experience that pleasure.
yeah,
I am allowed to have all that pleasure in my life. I am allowed to feel that pleasure in my body. I'm allowed to feel that pleasure in my body, in my life, but even like, emotionally, spiritually, like really, I
it's our
think that's,
birthright.
yeah, I
It's
think
our
it's very
birthright.
powerful too.
And and maybe this will help, convince you if you're at the very beginning stages at the moment. Women have over 10,000 nerve endings in their clitoris alone, and there is
Exactly.
no other point or reason to have this clitoris and 10,000 nerve endings other than pleasure.
Exactly. And the cervix is the part of the body that has the nervus vagus that
Mhm.
goes straight to the brain. And what do
Yes,
they
all the way up.
use nervus vagus activation for? To fight depression. So just to get deep penetration and have your cervix being stimulated by your man or even by your fingers or by a dildo can, give you bliss, can give
Yeah,
you these feelings of joy and aliveness. So it's very powerful.
absolutely.
The female body is amazing.
I went through a couple of years, probably about 4, where I had an orgasm minimum 1 every day. Minimum 1 every day.
Yes.
And
An
this isn't new
orgasm a
science.
day keeps the doctor
Oh,
away.
yeah. Not only that, it lights up your entire life and
Yeah.
you're a total pussy queen. And this isn't new information that's just like brand new and people are talking about. Like if we go back to the 1800s, when women were in menopause and thought to be going crazy, they designed the dildo or the vibrator at that time because it actually helped women calm them down from hysterical,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
that
Well,
was
I,
right.
I'm
Ugh.
I went through menopause myself, so I'm on the other side now. I haven't had my moon cirrus blood for like 2 years, and I can tell you because, of course, also I've been on this journey, so it's easier for me. But the the amount of horniness and like, um, yeah, it's really crazy on the other
Yeah,
side.
the
Not
turn
crazy
on.
and like, but yeah. So I
Amazing. Amazing.
amazing, yes.
Yes. Yes. And
So
and you know, they didn't
I
go
can
about
relate
it
to
quite
that.
right in the 1800s. Like they started to do hysterectomies for hysteria and a whole pile of weird stuff, but they were on to something. There is something that lights a woman up, grounds her, calms her when she can experience pleasure on her own or with a partner. And
Yes.
that is our pleasure. So that is our birthright. And tapping into our birthright in of pleasure in our bodies is like such a key to literally not just turning on your body, but turning on your life, turning on your
Yes.
power source, turning on
Your
your
soul.
intuition, your soul, your creative
Yes.
nature. It all is alive in us. And every single woman is capable of accessing and tapping into
Absolutely.
this pleasure source because it lives within us and
Absolutely.
it's meant to come out.
Yeah, and even if you had a hysterectomy, how do you call
Yep,
it? You
that's
can
right.
you can still absolutely feel all of those amazing
Yeah,
pleasurable
absolutely.
sensations. Yeah.
And many women, after many years, are numb. They're like, I don't feel anything. I just want to speak to those women right now and let you know that it is possible to come back from that numbness. I also was numb at a
Yeah,
certain
same
point.
here.
There was
Totally. Yep.
totally numb. And that's
Yep.
a numbness actually is a sensation. So we can actually start playing with the numbness and bringing in,
Yeah,
a whole pile of different parts of
definitely.
thawing, of trauma thawing and integrating and working with our bodies and our pleasure and felt sense
Yeah.
and everything else that lives in there, but we can actually start playing with this sensation of even numbness and it will shift. It does shift. I haven't seen anybody where it doesn't
Yes,
shift eventually. And mine was
exactly.
pretty serious. There was a lot of major body issues, a lot of self-hatred, a lot of numbness, a lot of thinking I wasn't good enough and I never would be. I can track it back
Mm.
all the way back to my childhood. I know where it comes from now. And it was pretty heavy. The negative self-talk, throughout the day, all day long was heavy,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
numbness was heavy, and the dislike, like the actual almost hatred for my body was thick.
Yeah.
And I share that to help women understand that if that's where you're at or any other stage in between, it is totally possible to shift.
Yes. And
Totally
also to shift all
possible.
this inner mind talk.
All of it, all of
Yes,
it.
definitely. Yeah.
That inner mind, self-talk only actually showed up once last week, which I found was really interesting. I was triggered and it showed up then. I was like, "Oh,
Here
interesting.
it
I
is.
haven't heard negative self-talk in a
Yeah.
long time."
Yeah.
But it actually was just a short little trigger and I was like, "Huh, I see you. I'm not listening, but thank you." And I did, what I needed to do. But, it's really powerful what you can reclaim.
Yes,
If you see these turned
absolutely.
on, beautiful women sharing about epic sex, which I do all the time now, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not just 1 or 2 orgasms. I've
Yeah,
been
and if they feel
20,
like, oh,
30
this
plus
is,
at this point.
yeah, yeah,
It's brilliant. I
yeah,
wasn't always like that. I was barely having an orgasm. I was not enjoying sex. I was hoping we could just get it over with. Having
yeah,
sex to just get pregnant and not enjoy anything, right? Like there was
yeah,
many things over the years that I was doing that I know many women out there can relate to, and it is possible to shift it.
absolutely. Yeah, and it might take a little bit of a time for some, and that's totally fine. It's so worth it to take that time and to keep
Mhm.
going because, as you said, it's possible for all women, any
Oh,
age,
oh.
all of.
And looking back, for the last 8 years in my journey, I did it while I was in a relationship, but I didn't do it alongside my relationship because it wasn't really working. I can see that now for what it is, right? But I did that
Yeah,
work myself for myself. So if you're not in a
absolutely,
relationship or you're not in a happy relationship, you can still do this work and do it for
absolutely,
yourself. And I highly recommend it doing it first because
absolutely.
then
Yes,
you can
exactly.
call in the most magical, exquisite relationship where
Yes.
you are in your power and you are in your
Yeah,
body.
we're both speaking from experience
Yes.
here.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yeah,
it is possible and it's exquisite.
totally.
And
Totally.
even if you don't want to be in a relationship, just having access to the power that lives within the oracle between your
Oh,
thighs and your turn on and your juiciness to create whatever business, life, meal, home you
yes.
want to create, art doesn't matter. That is our power. That is our birthright. That is what women are meant to do is
Yes.
be in our bodies, be in our sensuality, be in our femininity, be in our power and create our life from there, whatever life it is that you want to create.
Yes. Totally agree. 100%.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty
Yes,
cool. You should see my
absolutely.
journals from 8 years ago. It's absolutely insane, just the journals from eight
Yeah.
years ago. And it was brilliant. I'm going to speak to this one. I think this one's okay to share. But like, a month ago, I was in Costa Rica with Layla with the co-ed retreat with my partner, my current partner of the last year and a bit here. And it was absolutely amazing. And at one point, he was standing down by the Buddha, by the breakfast hall, just standing, taking in the sun. And he didn't know what I was doing, but I saw him there and I took a photo. And it made me cry because I was there also 3 years ago, right, with the Vita retreat. And that was just women. That was part of our coaching certification. It was a bonus that we got to go and spend a week there with Layla. And I texted my bestie, my other sister goddess and sex love relationship coach as well, who was there with me. And it was like, oh my goddess, look what's created in the last 2 years, 2 through 2.5 years since we were there last time. And at the time, I had a period that week. I don't get very many anymore, a couple of about 4 or 5 a year. But I had one that week because we were with all the women that were menstruating, all the younger women that we were there in
Yeah.
Costa Rica. And I actually poured, a bunch of us did, a cup period blood on the plant at the foot of the Buddha. And we were, sharing our desires of what we wanted and did this whole ritual. And I have to pull out my journal still. I said I was going to, but I only been back for a couple of weeks. And literally now I have a photo of this man standing right in front of that Buddha, where I made all these desires for epic love and deep connected relationship. And wow, I just have to find it and read it because I know it was all in there and it made me cry. I was just like, oh, and
Yes.
here I have it. And wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. That's what
And
happens when we follow
I
our
was going to
vision.
say that's what happens when you stand in your power and you follow your intuition and you listen to what your soul is wanting and crying for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, I'm still digesting it, as you can tell. I'm like, wow,
Yes.
wow.
So powerful.
So cool. And I didn't think it when I grabbed my phone to take a photo of him. I just was like, oh, he looks standing right beside the Buddha. I'm gonna take a photo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it was really cool.
Yes.
So this is what's possible. We're trying to show here, what we can come from all the way through to what we can go to, no matter
Yes.
where you are on your journey. If you're wanting to deepen into more epic love and orgasms and hit a point where you're having energetic orgasms in the 20 and 30s and so forth, times per session, like we can reach that too. That is possible. I have, and I do every single time now. It's crazy what my body is possible. and
Oh,
capable of and brilliant. And if you're struggling and you don't even want to have sex and you don't even want to be intimate, or if you're solo and haven't had sex in 5 or 10 years, it doesn't matter where you are on this journey. We have the tools. We've been taught by the most epic woman ever who has certified so many of us through sex, love, relationships, tantra, pleasure, all of the different things that we can dive into. And, this is still taboo to many of you listening. I know it is because that's why you watch the reels and listen to the podcast, but don't always comment or heart
yeah.
because it's still like, what's happening
Beep.
here? But we see
Yeah.
you and
Yeah,
we love you and we were you. And this is
absolutely.
possible. This is totally
Yeah,
possible for every single one of you listening.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
What do you have going on right now, Mariana, that you can share? Tell people where to find you, all the goodness. Where can they find you on the interwebs?
Yes, they can find my website on www.unleashyourwildness.com. So they can read about, all the things that I'm offering. They can also find me on Instagram, also Unleash Your Wildness. And on YouTube, it's Marianne van Katwijk. I think you need to check there, but otherwise they can find me on my website and I can, of course, send them. But maybe also you can put it in the bottom of the
And we totally will be putting the
Yeah,
links in the
so
show
there they
notes.
find the link to my YouTube. I also create videos. Yeah, and I'm just really excited for all the women that are listening to go through the same journey and to find their potential. And even though the moment where you think like, oh, I've reached my potential, to know that there is even more
Some more.
pleasure possible. There's even more bigger orgasmic amazingness
Bliss,
possible. Yeah,
outright
possible.
bliss.
Yeah,
Bliss, like
so
orgasms that last for a minute, and you're like, what the heck's happening? I don't know, but it's cool.
yeah.
Yes.
So I wish for all the women on this planet to go on this journey and to really allow themselves to experience this kind of pleasure because
Yeah,
it's so worth it.
it
And it will
really is.
also, in the end, I think, create world peace if we're all experiencing this. Yeah.
It's such a different level of groundedness, of regulation, of
Yeah.
nervous system understanding, of compassion, of love, and
Yes.
pleasure. It's all connected, and that is the work that we do because we're, of course, using it in the tantric lens, and that's how we teach.
Mm.
And yeah, it's so brilliant. For those who are listening, who want to know what's going on with me right now, I do have a couple of spots open for private coaching starting in the new year. That is an option. And I'm going to see if I can get it into the show notes as well. We also have couples and singles retreats coming starting
Mm.
in the Northern Ontario. So I'm trying to start a mailing list for that for the people who want that information when it comes out. It is not out yet, but I think I can put a link up in there where you can get on to it's Phoenix Rising Retreats, where we're going to be offering. It's going to be so cool. So if you want to get on that wait list and find out when the in-person retreats are coming in Northern Ontario, it's the most brilliant, beautiful spot on a lake and 5 acres and a whole pile of beautiful land and nature. And I'm really excited for this. This is coming. This is my 2025 project. And of course, Get Your Sexy Back is still happening. I still work with people all around the world in private coaching, online membership, Sacred Pleasure membership, Jade Eggs on my website as well, all under Get Your Sexy Back. But it's time to merge these two. It's time to expand into in-person retreats. And I'm so excited to offer this to all of you. So we'll put those links in the show notes as well.
Great. I
Yeah,
love it.
I
Yes.
love it. Literally, my Phoenix Rising is happening.
Yes.
So,
So
so
powerful.
excited, so powerful. And I'm so
Absolutely.
grateful for the goddess, for Pussy, for Layla Martin, for Regina Thomashower, aka Mama Gina,
Oh,
for
yeah.
all my sister goddesses, for everybody who's witnessed me on this journey, for my partner, for my children, for everything that has brought me to this point. It's been absolutely delicious, and I can't wait for more. So,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me, Mariana. I really
It
loved
was
our
an absolute
conversation.
pleasure to be here. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Till next time, everyone.
Bye.